Welcome. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Aiyana.
And I'm Jennie.
And we are Two Healthy Chicks. So, really just want to say thank you for joining us last week and taking a trip down memory lane with us. It was fun. I thought so anyway. I think maybe we had more fun than we anticipated.
Yes.
We definitely
it was a blast.
It was. We learned quite a bit about each other. Like, we actually thought we knew a lot, but learned a lot more.
Yeah, it was awesome. I have a feeling every episode's going to be like that. We're going to be like, I didn't know that about you. So yeah, that was such a blast. So much fun learning about each other. And I'm excited to dive into another topic this week where we can learn more about too. And this one is the mind-body-skin connection. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I think it's really fascinating to see what science is showing us about the connection between these three things. Like, it makes a difference what you put in your mind. It makes a difference what you put into your body, what you eat, and it makes a difference what you put on your skin as to the overall health of your body and how you function.
Yeah, agreed. We actually have two guests in our second
Yay!
segment, so that's really exciting. So make sure you stick around with us. We are going to interview two different people that will have a lot to say about what we're going to talk about tonight. And just before we dive in, Jennie, what's in your mug?
Oh, yes. So I've got my Arbonne Detox tea.
I went with Arbonne orange chai tonight, so I wanted to switch it up a little bit.
Nice. Very nice. Love it.
So, talking about mind, body, skin, and that connection between the three, like when we think about mind, it's really all encompassing. It's what we think about, what we listen to, what books we read, and it really has an impact, I think. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's funny when I was thinking about this, the thing that popped into my head was, so talking about a trip down memory lane, going back to high school, I remember this poster that was on the wall in our science classroom. And yes, I do remember the strangest things. You will learn that about me. And it was a poster of Garfield, and this is dating myself because many of you out there probably don't even know who Garfield is. He's this fat little cat cartoon character, and so he has this smug look on his face, and he has these books stacked on his head, and the caption of his brain of what he's thinking is, "I'm learning by osmosis." And I just think this popped into my head thinking about what we're talking about tonight with mindset and what we put in our mind, how it affects our body. And so funny, like, obviously you can't put books on your head and just learn what's in them. Clearly you can't do that. But there is a connection. I know, seriously. Let me try that. My kids will be trying that. But just seeing, like, there is a connection. It makes a difference what goes in that mind of yours as to how all of your body works.
There is. And just to let you know, Garfield has actually made a comeback. So my daughter watches Garfield, and it brings back like these warm feelings, because I used to love Garfield also. So I guess, you dated both of us. All right.
There you go. Sorry about that.
We are how old we are. But
yes, we'll keep that quiet.
Garfield made a comeback. So when we listen to things, like, there is a lot. So you talked about putting a book on your head. However, if you put headphones on and you're listening to an audiobook overnight, there are some studies that show what we listen to and when we listen to them throughout the day has an impact on our health, on our emotions, etc. So, you go to, like, what are the things that you're listening to just before you go to bed at night, and why are we being told now, make sure you stop the blue light on your electronic devices at least an hour before. So if we take that a little bit further, is there more to what it is that we're listening to and watching before we go to sleep? I know for me, funny story actually, when I was younger, yes, probably around Garfield's age,
There we go.
mother told me not to watch Gremlins, like told me don't go see Gremlins. Yes. And it's kind of funny because when I tell the story, most people are like, oh, that was such a funny movie. Yeah, well, clearly I didn't think so. So as much as my mother warned me, and typically when you get warnings from your parents, for me anyway, and both my mother and father can attest to this, I will typically do the opposite. So I went
No.
to, we used to go to, yeah, never. We used to go to my grandparents' house on the weekend, and my aunt would take us to the movies a lot, and there were a number of grandchildren, so we would go, and of course, you know, because there's so many of us, we'd have like popcorn and Ziploc bags and, you know, fruit
Oh, yeah.
snacks and
Make your
little
own
juice
snacks, of
boxes.
course.
Exactly,
Yes.
it was
That's
like
what
this
we did.
big field
Yes.
trip to
Mhm.
the movies. So we decide we're going to the movies, or my aunt decides. Shout out Aunt Vanessa. Aunt Vanessa decides to take us to the movies, and she's like, okay, do you guys want to see Gremlins? And of course, the first person that says yes is this one right here.
Oh, you did not.
So when
Mm.
I tell you, I am not exaggerating with what I'm about to tell you, I had nightmares for 2.5 years.
2.5
Not
years.
months, not weeks. Yeah, how
Girl,
ridiculous.
you got it. Mhm. Think you'll do
So
that again?
never again. Never
No.
again. Mind you, I did actually learn to love horror movies, but now that I'm
Oh.
getting older,
Mm-mm.
I tend not to want to be bothered. And when I say like horror movies, like I want the lights out, I
Mm-mm.
want it to be nighttime because I don't want any
Oh.
light peeking in, popcorn, and I'm good to go. But
Ah.
lately, I would say like over the last year or so, I'm kind of all set. I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that horror movies are terrible now, or that I'm just growing out of the horror movie phase. Who knows? Who knows? I digress. So I think that, you know, there is a lot to what you are listening to. Are we listening to the news all day long? And if
Mhm.
so, are we putting a stop on that, especially with
Mhm.
what's
Yeah.
going on now? Don't let that be the last thing that you're listening
Right.
to before you go to bed, you know, and then we're wondering, oh, I didn't really get a good sleep last night and I
Mhm.
was tossing and turning. Like these are things that can all add to your emotional health. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, there's many studies that have shown that. I mean, just absolutely what you put in your mind when you go to bed at night affects how you sleep, what you put in your mind first thing in the morning. And it's definitely been said. I mean, I heard that years ago. In fact, I was just talking about this because this was our topic that we're talking about. I was talking about with my daughter, and she's like, I know, Mom, you told me, like, don't watch the news before I go to bed. Don't get watch it, like I already know that. So, but it's true because it affects your sleep. And then it's also interesting because just so I'm reading Hal Elrod's book, Miracle Morning, and he has a whole bunch of different Miracle Morning for this, Miracle Morning for that. But he talks about in it, obviously, setting up your morning for success for the day and having your morning routine. But what's fascinating is that morning is actually set up by how you go to bed at night and setting yourself up at night, setting your intentions for the next day. Because there are studies out there that show that if you go to bed saying it's going to be so hard to get up in the morning, I'm going to have a really hard time getting, 5 o'clock is going to come so early, then it is going to be difficult and you aren't
Absolutely.
going to have a good night's sleep. You're not preparing yourself well for the next morning. So all of that absolutely goes together, and just that connection between your routine at night and then how you sleep, and then preparation in your routine in the morning, setting yourself up for that mindset.
Yeah, and I mean that leads to your affirmations, right? What you're telling yourself, what you're
Mm,
actually going to believe is
yes.
probably what you're telling yourself. So if you're saying, "Oh, this is Monday, Monday is going to suck." Your Monday is probably going to suck.
What you
Yeah,
think about, you bring about, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you say affirmations, like the power of affirmations is phenomenal. Our brain thinks in pictures, and so you give it word pictures, you give it those so with affirmations, like what you say, what you think about, your brain will believe. Your brain doesn't have the deciding factor. You just put it in your brain. And so you want to be in control of the things that you are putting in your brain. And Dr. Shad Helmstetter talks about this in his book. He has written many books, but one of them that I absolutely love is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And he talks about the power of affirmations and
Right.
using them. And you can put them on 3x5 cards and put them on your mirror. You can write them in lipstick on your mirror, but just listen to them. There's apps for it. I know there's the Think Up app. I'll give a shout out to. I have it on my phone, but I haven't actually started using it. So any of you out there Note to self, let me do this. That have used it, let us know. I would love to hear from you, or if there's other apps that you personally use, that would be pretty awesome to hear. But the power of affirmations, what we say to ourselves, vision board, like I said, your brain thinks in pictures. So having that vision board and having actual pictures of what you want to accomplish, who you want to be, what you want to do around your house so that you're seeing it. It's front of mind.
Absolutely. And, thinking about the 3x5s and putting them around your mirror, it makes me think of being Mary Jane. She had Post-its all over the place. Again, a little sidebar. But there is something to like what is out of sight is out of mind.
Mm.
So, we've been talking about what you put in your mind. Like the opposite is true, for those of us who you talked about vision boards, those of us who have goals.
Mm.
And whether it's a daily goal, a weekly goal, a goal for your business, a goal for the year, whatever it is, if you don't have it in front of you on a regular basis, whatever that means for you, whether it's a journal, just like you said, or an app, or those photos, like there is a lot to, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If it's something that you want, you should have
Mm-hmm.
it in front of you at some point throughout your day. So with that, like who we spend time with,
Mm.
there's
Ah,
something to
yes.
that also. So it
Mm-hmm.
said we're the sum of the 5 people with whom we spend the most time. So Jennie, look at your phone. Like
Mm-hmm.
who's
Mm-hmm.
the top 5? And actually, you don't have to share this, but just for yourself, who are the top 5 people
Mm-hmm.
in your text messages, like in your favorites list? Who are those top 5 people in your
Yeah.
email, in your Outlook, whether it's work or personal or whatever? Who are the top 5 people that you spend the most time with? And then, like, if you think about them individually, and this isn't a matter of judging, this is just a matter of what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's name comes across your phone and you immediately have a negative thought, like, oh, I can't deal with that right now, maybe
Yeah.
this person shouldn't be in your top 5. Like essentially, they have top billing in your
Yeah.
life. So who do you want to have top billing in your life?
That can be tough because especially if there's changes going on in your life and you are growing, and then maybe friends that you've had for a long time, for forever, from childhood, from college, from high school, from your first job, from wherever, and they're not growing at that same pace and not looking for those same things, that can be a really tough dynamic. And just being able to recognize that and understand, where do you want to go? And you talked about goals and thinking about, I think that's something that people don't think about all that often, is we don't necessarily live life on purpose. Like, who do I want to be? What do I want to be? And then what do I need to do? Who do I need to become to have that and to become that? And so who do I need to hang out around to model that behavior? And I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Eric Worre that talked about that in his book. And
Yeah,
he
GoPro.
chose like,
Mhm.
okay, and GoPro, he was talking about like, he wanted to have a better position. He wanted to be around business people. And so he found a way to get around very well established business people. So that's what you have to do. If you want to be, I don't know, fill in the blank, whoever, you need to go surround yourself with that. It's kind of like, it makes me think of the phrase, if you want to trout, you go to a trout stream. Like, duh.
Yeah,
So if you want to be a banker, you go hang out with bankers, find out what they do, find out what they know, find out, just that it makes a lot of sense, right? So that's a really good one. And it can be super tough,
yeah,
potentially.
agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome. So, all right. So let's move on, because mind is our main topic we are discussing tonight. But I want to touch on the body and the skin as well, because of that understanding of the overall, all of those connections, with the emphasis on mind tonight. So let's just touch on body. And so, Aiyana, would you say that what we eat makes a huge difference on our health?
I would. I would definitely. I'm laughing, I'm chuckling because I'm
There's a
thinking
story
about
there.
again the experience that I had a couple of weeks ago, which again we just won't dive into that right now. But yes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just the power of not only what we think, but then what we are putting into our body, and how that affects us, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, you can tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so yeah, I might as well just dive into it, right?
Go
I
for
mean,
it. We can take it.
yeah, we might as well, right? I mean, we kind of went really deep last, so we might as well, make that a thing for
Make
us,
it a
right?
thing.
So,
Hmm.
um, we went out to eat 2 weeks ago, 2 weekends ago, and I won't go into great detail, but I will say that later on that night, now mind you, this was before we got into our 30 days, because I was taking a little break. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm gonna eat whatever I want to eat this weekend, and
Mistake
then
number
I'm
one.
gonna exactly, then I'm gonna really get to it on Monday. So Saturday night we went out to eat, and every single one of our appetizers were fried, right?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Later that night, um, I will just say that no exaggeration. Please believe me when I'm a very dramatic person. We all know that. If you know me, you know I'm dramatic, but I don't exaggerate. Um, I looked like I was about 4 to 5 months pregnant, and I'm like,
Mm.
what is going on here? Like, this is not okay. And what's so funny is in the past, prior to realizing what foods work for me and what foods are sabotaging, I just thought it was normal. It was just a
Yeah.
matter of, oh, I just need to digest. I just need to, let the food work its way through, and I'll feel better when I'm done.
Yeah.
It's not normal. That is not how
Mm-mm.
our bodies are supposed to react. I really just thought it was a matter of, okay, I really got to watch what I eat because I'm just fat. No,
Mm.
because the next
No.
morning, I did my little body cleanse, and it's not a juice. Like, we do not at all promote skipping meals and just
Mm-mm.
drinking liquids for no. But I did a body cleanse the next day, and literally night and day
Yeah.
just disappeared. That's not normal. That's not the
No.
way our bodies are supposed to react. So absolutely, I would agree that, you know, we are what we eat.
Yeah. And it's interesting because so you talked about fried foods. And first of all, it's hard to get away from any appetizers that aren't fried. Um, and it's interesting. I was talking to a friend just a few days ago, and she was saying that she did a detox last month from fried foods. Like that was her detox. And so
Mhm,
she's like,
mhm.
I felt so much better. It's amazing. So yeah, there is power to what we eat and how our body feels and how it functions. And it's not only what we're eating, but also what actually gets absorbed into our system. So making sure we are eating those nutritious foods that can get absorbed properly into our system makes a huge difference. And what you were talking about is a classic case of inflammation. I mean, paying attention to those foods that do not cause inflammation is really key because, I mean, let's just face it, nothing good comes from inflammation. I mean, we are not doctors, but having done a lot of research after being diagnosed with my autoimmune disease, which we shared last week, that I have learned a lot about
Yeah,
inflammation,
yeah,
about what causes it, and the great importance of lowering inflammation in the body. And it's amazing to me. And it was truly like, I don't know about you, Ina, but this was shocking to me when I learned that a lot of it can be controlled by what I eat. That was fascinating. That was like a mic drop to me. Like I had no idea.
yeah. I'm literally learning that. I would say over the past 2 months, I've
Mm,
really been seeing like the difference in how my body reacts. And we hear all the time that what we should eat should fuel us, and it's just kind of this thing
mm,
that you hear. And whether or not you pay attention to it is one thing, but how many times do we have meals where we just want to take a nap?
yeah.
Monday through
Mhm,
Friday, you're at work. If you're anything like me and you just did not meal prep on the weekend,
mhm.
prior, of course, to COVID, before we're home and can actually just go to our kitchen and have a decent
Just grab
meal.
it.
Exactly. But prior to that, I just did not meal prep. I was awful at it. I just didn't carve out the time to do
It's
it.
like another job.
It truly is. And then when you don't do that, what are you left with?
Mm,
Whatever is around you. So it really
mhm,
depends on where you work, and thinking again of one of those locations, like what was around us, all of the
mm,
fast food chains, all of the coffee chains, it just, if you're eating and then you want to take a nap, that's not just because, oh, I ate too much. No,
mm-mm,
probably wasn't something that's going to fuel your body.
mm-mm. No. And it's interesting because we are finding like just watching out for all the allergenic foods that are out there that are wreaking havoc on our system. And it's interesting. I looked up the word allergy, and as defined by the Oxford Languages, it says an allergy is a damaging immune response by the body to a substance, especially pollen, fur, a particular food, or dust to which it has become hypersensitive. And I thought that was really fascinating. That just, again, we'll dive in deeper another time why we are having these, but just things to be aware of what are we putting into our body? How is it truly affecting us?
Yeah. Another thing that we'll touch on is like the desire to have our body in a balanced state. So
Mm,
alkaline versus acidic, those are things that we will discuss in this series, what we're going to call a series of mind, body, skin.
hmm.
Tonight being mind, we are going to cover body and then skin. So you see how we're trying to hook you in, right?
Love it. Got to stay tuned. So yeah, I mean the skin, right? So let's chat about the skin a little bit. So
Yeah, like what you put on your skin matters.
mm,
And it was shocking for me to learn, and I don't know what you were getting ready to say, but I jumped in because it
no, go
was
for it.
really shocking.
Hmm.
We mentioned this in the last episode, but 60% of what we put on our skin is absorbed into our bloodstream and our organs within 26 seconds. That
Yeah.
was my mic drop. So you talked about a mic drop with
Hmm.
body. That was my mic drop. Like it
Yeah.
just you don't think about things like that because those aren't things that are typically discussed. So when you have like these big box stores having
Mm,
sales on bath and body products and ooh, it smells so good. Yeah, let's turn that around. What's in that label? Because what's in
yeah.
that label, a lot of it is going into our system.
Yeah, I mean, it's all connected, right? So it's so interesting that what's going on in the inside, in the gut microbiome, like everything we were just talking about and about the body, is reflected on the skin. And then vice versa, what we put on the skin goes into the body and affects our gut. So it's all connected. And so the skin, I mean, the skin is used as a way to get medicine into the body, right? So for example, there's skin patches that are used as a conduit to get medicine in, for example, like Nicoderm. So it's very common. Talk to any nurses, any doctors. This is a very common thing. So the skin is used to get things into our body. So then it begs the question, do you read labels for your skincare products like you do for your food?
Probably not, because I know I definitely didn't. And again, before our bond, like I wasn't aware of the differences in, like, let's take, for instance, um, Europe versus the United States. So
Mhm.
Europe bans 1,400
Yeah.
ingredients from
Amazing.
their personal care and nutrition products, while unfortunately in our country, we ban very little. That number, I believe, is 12, not
It's under
1,200.
20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not 1,200,
No.
12. Like, that's a huge difference, and that to me, it really isn't okay. I know to you also, it's actually quite
Yeah.
like enraging because not only
Hmm.
are these products or ingredients allowed in our products, but we're not taught, or I know I wasn't, to look for certain ingredients and to stay away from certain ingredients. Like, first
Hmm.
of all, they shouldn't be in our products to begin with. We shouldn't have to do all of this research for every little thing that we pick up at the grocery store. We're going to end up spending 7 hours in the grocery store. Like,
Which is why we're here. We would help all of you not to have to spend 7 hours doing this.
you got it. Like, period. I mean, now, especially, like, I just do my shopping from home. Like, I don't even bother.
Mhm.
If I can get it delivered, I want it delivered, please. And thank you. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, who has time for all of that? We
No,
shouldn't
we
have
don't.
to look for those things, but
Mm-mm.
we're here to let you know what those things are.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember we have power as consumers. We have the ability to get educated, to learn these things, and then speak our voice through what we actually purchase. And that's our job to share that voice and as consumers. And so that's why we are here together to be able to help you be educated to know what are the things to look out for? What are the things that I want to be sure to include? And so having this overall understanding of the overall makeup of what contributes to our health, the mind, body, skin, it's also key. It's a combination of a lot of things.
It really is. And that is, again, what we're going to cover over these 3 episodes, that mind, body, skin connection. It's all related. So you said it's a combination of a lot of things and it's all related. So we are going to break. And when we
And
come
well,
back, yes, we're going to have
stay
2 very
tuned.
special guests. So please make sure you stay tuned. You are listening to SM Enlightenment Radio. Welcome back to Two Healthy Chicks on WSME, SM Enlightenment Radio. We are talking about the mind, body, skin connection, and we're focusing right now on the mind. So we have 2 special guests. The first is a dear friend of mine. We've been friends for over 10 years, and we attended the same church. I think that's actually where we met, was at church. And we grew to know each other. And then we realized that we had a deeper connection. We both actually have sickle cell. So we bonded really well over that because, it's always nice to see very productive individuals, very successful individuals that are struggling. Not nice to see that, but
Yeah.
there are people like you.
The
And
connection.
she's just a very warm and down to earth person. So I wanted to bring her on tonight because she can really speak to the depth of the mind
Yeah.
in the mind, body, skin connection. And not for nothing, I like to think of her as my accessory stylist. So,
Ooh, nice.
everything
Yeah, I was gonna say you
I
are bedazzled tonight.
wear.
Very nice.
Jenny, we're going to get to the point where we have hair and makeup, but for now,
Well, my problem is when I wear these, even if I put earrings on, I mean, you're not gonna see them. So I
That's all
gotta
right.
work
We
on
just
that.
got to get Deborah to bling you out and you'll be able to see them no matter what. So
That's right.
we're
It'd be
bringing,
hanging down. Yes, we'll work on that.
we're going to bring on Deborah Oliver. Hey, Deborah,
Hey,
how are you?
welcome.
Great. I took some notes so that
Oh,
Perfect.
awesome.
Look,
I
very
could.
engaged guest.
Well, a few of the things that you were talking about, I definitely can relate. So
Yeah.
we'll get into that.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Go for it. What spoke to you?
So the first thing I think you mentioned it, Janine, was the affirmations about saying what you say to yourself. And I know that because we met in church, Aiyana, I always go to scriptures. So I always say scriptures as my affirmations because those are true. And I know that they bring out who I really am in the spiritual form. And so I could do all things through Christ that strengthens me. The joy of the Lord is my strength. I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Those are things. Those are things that I say to myself every day, all day long, so that it builds confidence, it builds faith, it builds less of a anxiousness, especially in what's going on in the world today. And so it's great for me. So that's what I enjoy.
Well, thank you. It's
awesome.
Yeah, I had Bible study earlier tonight, and I feel like this is an extension.
Welcome to Bible study on SME, SM Enlightenment.
We're just gonna switch up our title.
Yes.
But that actually is a great segue into one of the things that I wanted to touch on. So you talked about what's going on in the world, and I know you've had your experience with grief, and many people over 2020 probably more so than I've ever seen in my lifetime are really dealing with grief.
Yes, they are. And unfortunately death is not a fun thing to experience. Grieving is not a fun thing to experience. So that when someone, loses a loved one, it's like, where do you go from there? What are the steps that you take to get through the grieving process? They always say that your grieving lasts about 5 years, but does it really? Because it continues. It gets less of the feeling. You remember, you have less moments of crying and having your moments. Well, I've come up with 3 things that have helped me through the year, this past 2020. So I lost my mom. To give you a background story, I lost my mom early December 2019.
Sorry.
It was just the pandemic. So I didn't have to deal with bearing her in the time that we live with. So I did have support and family around. They were able to come to the funeral, all that. They was able to visit my house. It wasn't restricted to how many people you can. So I'm so grateful for that part of it, in the midst of a struggle that I was going through, to have people come and visit and offer their condolences and sit by me, even if it wasn't to say anything, just to listen to me, listen to my stories, to remember my mom in such a great way. So during the 2020, there were 3 things that helped me through my grieving process. And the first one that helped me through my grieving process is Bible apps. So if you have a Bible app on your phone, they have plans that you can do every day. And that speaks, Janine, that speaks to what are you doing first thing in the morning? Yeah. So first thing in the morning, I click on the Bible app. And when I was going through, I'm going through my grief process, they have a lot of Bible plans in the Bible app that help you speak to grief on a spiritual level and get your mind correct for the day. And so that's one thing that I do. And then the second thing that I do is I play worship and praise music. There's a scripture in the Bible that God inhabits the praises of his people. Mm-hmm. And there's a song that says, you make yourself feel better by praise and worship. And so I love Tamla Mann. That's one of my favorite gospel artists. And I play her station on Pandora or on Alexa. I play it all day long at home just to create that calming atmosphere, not just in my house, but also in the workplace. Yeah. When I was going through my grieving at work, so many people, I didn't know so many people were taking notice, even the doctors. I'm a clinical technologist at a major hospital in New Haven, but I won't say. And so I'm able to play my music there and just have peace there, but also help people have peace in their own time. So if you're coming to me in a laboratory and you're bringing me a specimen, or a doctor's asking me to do something specific, he will run into my music and he'll have a smile on his face because he knows it's peaceful there. Mm-hmm. It's not craziness in the midst of trying to keep everything straight and help people who are sick. There's still a peaceful realm there. And I'm always trying to maintain that ability to be peaceful.
And do you feel like having that calm, like just how your mind, or how you are almost training your mind, do you feel like that helps you move differently in life and at work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, what you're feeding your mind, what you're feeding your body, when you wake up, even when you go to bed, it's the next morning, it's just training for you to have that peace. There's another scripture that says, the peace that passes all understanding. And it's that peace that you, as a human level, you can't really understand, but definitely on a spiritual level, you can understand. It's ingraining into you. And so if you emulate peace, then people around you will be peace. And then that speaks to who's around you.
Yeah, those 5
people. That's another thing that I said, that those top 5 things, so the top 5 things, I could tell you today, I belong to a prayer group, and I've been in the prayer group for about 15 years now. And it's all ages, and it's men and women. mostly women, mostly older women, and they have gone through experiences that I'm going through. They've gone through grief. One of the people I talk to every day, she's lost a husband and 2 sons in 3 years time span. And I'm grieving, I'm crying to her, and I'm like, how do you stay strong? And she says, well, baby, this is how I stay strong. I read my scriptures. I listen to what God says to me. I know that he's going to give me that comfort and peace because that's what he promised me. And that's all I can do is rely on his promises.
Right.
And then you talked about vision boards, and I just had a couple of girls over because of the pandemic. We kind of limited the amount of people I had over, but we had a vision board kind of party, and I did one, I think 2017 going into 2018. And vision board, you're right, Janine, when you see it every day, it reminds you what your goals are, what you're working towards. And on one of my vision boards, I put that I wanted to purchase a house, and 6 months later, I did.
Yeah, congratulations.
Testimony.
Deborah, you and I could talk like all night, and I could ask you a ton of questions.
And we have. That's
I know.
Love it.
I'm going to combine like my last 2 topics, and just like in a short response. Like, I know that therapy is something that's very important to you, and at the same time, just thinking of that stigma in the Black community. So, like, in a couple of sentences, what would you say is your experience, and how did you overcome that stigma, and how important is that, like, in this connection of mind, body, skin?
So I think that therapy is extremely important. You need to talk to somebody. You need not just somebody that you know. You need to talk to somebody that you can be extremely transparent with.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people that you can't really be transparent with them because they'll give you that judgment look of,
they know too much.
Are you really thinking that? And so, and I'm like, it's important that you talk to someone. It's not the first time that I experienced therapy. I've done therapy throughout all my life, but I think this time that I did therapy for my mom, for grieving for my mom, was a little different. I think that you need to find somebody who is relatable. I know what difference it made was I prayed about it. Number one, I prayed for God to direct me into the right person. And he did that. And the person is relatable. I will show you her card in case anybody's interested in its best practices. And I think this is who she is. But she's excellent. She's very relatable. She allows me to be more transparent than I've ever been with anyone talking. I appreciate that. It's not a judgment mode. And she allows me to talk about my faith, talk about how my faith helps me. She has several books and that I read. And then there are other things that are equal to it, like scripture or Christian books that are similar to it. And I think that we encourage each other because during this pandemic, I can see what she goes through. She shared some of the things that she has gone through, and to be able to do that, it's not just I'm just your therapist and that's it. It's so I am your therapist, but talking and relating and to show my experiences. So I highly encourage everyone. Everyone. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, it's kind of like shopping. I mean, I landed on a phenomenal therapist as well, and it was literally like shopping. Like, you got to find the one that fits, honestly.
You do.
But Deborah, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so
your
much.
business is D's number one treasures, and we're gonna have that up on the screen again.
Yes, and Janine, I will definitely bling you out.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank you so much. Amazing nuggets all throughout that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we are going to bring in another guest. We have 2 guests tonight that we told you. And so we are going to bring on Johanna. And Johanna is just amazing. She is an amazing, kind human being. And she does many things, lots of talent. She has a master's in acting with a focus in the movement. But what I want you to know about her is that she truly cares for others and wants to help others through the sharing of her own experiences, of recommending things that might be helpful to others. And that's actually how we met, talking about health issues and things that might be recommended for myself, my daughter, my family, and improving their health through being a yoga instructor. So she is actually a yoga certified instructor through West Hartford Yoga. And she has a great perspective on the importance of mindset, both through the experiences and through the practice of yoga. So knowing very well that mind-body connection. So please welcome Johanna DUNPHY.
Hello.
Yay, welcome.
Oh my goodness. I've loved listening to this conversation so much from my backstage area.
With the backstage pass.
Yeah, I might have a bunch of notes.
Oh my gosh.
Our guests are so engaged tonight. This is phenomenal.
It's so fun.
Love it. Love it. So you said to me, mindset changes everything. So what do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? Basically, you can go into any situation, any conversation, any day of work, any morning that you wake up, and you have a choice. We always have a choice.
Yeah.
You can choose, oh, this was terrible last time, so it's going to be terrible this time. Or you can choose, maybe I can accept this experience differently this time. Maybe it'll be great. You know, one of the things that I've started to practice, and it's been a few years now that I do this, before I put my feet on the floor in the morning, I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for.
Ooh,
and sometimes they're more elaborate. Sometimes I go into like, I'm grateful for my education because I'm really grateful for that. But then I go into, I'm thankful for my parents because my dad worked for 37 years at a university and helped me get a full scholarship to my undergrad. And then sometimes when everything feels really hard and it feels like there's nothing to be grateful for, it's something as simple as I'm grateful that I woke up, that I have running water, that I have access to running water, that I have socks on my feet because I sleep with socks on because my feet are also always cold.
Me too. Yes.
It must be a thing tonight.
Wait, but our listeners didn't hear that backstage conversation.
We're talking about cold in the background.
We're talking about all kinds of different foot warmers we have for cold floors, but we'll educate y'all about that later. Let's stick on mindset.
But the mornings that I have like forgotten to do that, I've noticed, oops, well now my day actually doesn't hang out that well. It sits weird. And suddenly I'm a little bit more frustrated with people. I'm a little bit more frustrated with myself. And so I think that's probably what I mean by, I think mindset changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. That what you were saying with the gift of everything makes me think of that. I've seen a video where a guy wakes up and everything is wrapped in wrapping paper. The water, the shower, his mug, his coffee mug, his car, like everything. Exactly what you were saying. Just being grateful for everything we have in our lives that we might otherwise just take for granted. So yeah, that's amazing. So tell me more from your perspective about this mind-body connection. So as you see it with your experience, how does it or how can mindset affect the physical body?
I think it just affects everything. That's not specific, so I'll dive in a little bit more.
Please do.
I read this recently. That emotions are energy. And if they go on unattended, if we just sit with them in a negative way, in a non-productive way, those emotional energies will lodge themselves. They'll lodge themselves in our shoulders, in our belly, in our back. And I'm so conscious about food. And, our gut is our second brain. It releases much of the serotonin into our body. So if our digestive system isn't working properly, then the serotonin isn't being released and we're not happy. So if we're not happy, then, and we don't deal with it, if we don't move our bodies in a way that is healthy for us, then that energy gets stuck there. And whatever the problem is gets worse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I do really simple things sometimes in my practice. I do it when I'm teaching as well, but also just in my own private practice, with placing my hands in certain places. I've had a lot of grief. I mean, we've all had a lot of grief this year. But I've lost a few people, and it's been a challenge. But if you notice, our feelings reside places. Like right now, I have a lot of grief. And so when I'm meditating, I put my hands on my chest. I put my hands where the hurt is, and I let it be there. And I say, welcome. I invite it to sit with me. I invite it to tea. I say, have a crumpet. And let's see what you're going to teach me. What are you going to bring up?
Yeah.
And then I'll go into a yoga practice and help move that energy through my body.
I think that word picture that you just gave us is so beautiful, and it's not dismissive. It's not saying that the grief is bad or it doesn't have a place, or, oh, just go off and deal with it, but
or
just
get over it.
Yeah. And
a big thing, sorry to cut you off there.
No.
A big thing that has been incredibly important to me during this crazy time is to avoid toxic positivity. Because I think it's really important to have gratitude, and there's always a bright side. There's always a silver lining. All that is absolutely true. But at the same time, if someone's in a lot of pain, and if all you're saying to them is, "Oh, buck up, you'll be fine," that totally dismisses their experience.
Yeah.
So by acknowledging, like, that does suck. I'm sorry that that's happening to you.
Yeah.
It changes the conversation. It allows somebody to be heard. And then in my case, a lot of times it's like, okay, so let's get on the mat. Let's meditate. Here's a thing that I'm reading, and maybe it'll help. And if not, that's fine too. You grieve in the way that you need to grieve. You deal with, I honor how you need to process.
And I think that speaks a lot to the power of yoga and that whole connection. I feel like it brings it full circle, because there are people that might say, oh, yoga is just stretching. What does that do for me? But yet what you just explained so eloquently and so beautifully is taking those emotions that are stuck in places in our body and helping to process them and move them through. And that beautiful emotional mind-body connection is so wonderful. It's so beautiful. It gives it such great purpose.
Yeah. And I would do myself a disservice if I didn't also speak to the fact that this is an ancient practice. Granted, there are many forms of westernized yoga, but this is a beautiful culture that comes from Southeast Asia that has been around for so many years. And like, I have such a deep respect for it. And I'm speaking with people to help myself understand the history more and to go more in depth with it, because it's been around forever. I didn't invent it. And with a lot of these, like Ayurvedic medicine and a lot of the Eastern medicines, they've been around for a while. It's preventative. Western medicine is more emergency, which, you know what? If I break my arm, if I'm hit by a bus, I don't want to go get acupuncture. Get
that set.
It's not going to work for you. No.
Exactly. That's awesome. So tell us how people can get in touch with you. You are a yoga instructor, so you definitely can help people through that connection through yoga. So let everyone know where they can find you.
Cool. Honestly, email is the best way. I'm in the process of setting up like a yoga email. I'm a couple steps behind, but that's okay. It's 2021. It's the leftovers of 2020.
It's all right. Exactly.
At the moment, it's my name. It's Johanna, JOHANNA .DUNPHY, DUNPHY @gmail. And I'm hoping to, especially when it's warm again, do some outdoor yoga and
I love it.
Breathe together and do some bendy things and respect our bodies exactly as they are.
I love it.
Awesome.
That's so awesome. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your experiences and enlightening us about that connection. So you're the best. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Have a great night.
You. Bye.
So I honestly learned something just now because I don't know if you were doing this also, but I have that gratitude list in the morning, and it's 10 things. And sometimes it takes longer to get through 10 things. And I'm like, oh, what a concept. Whittle it down. 3 things. That's good enough. And then now
before your feet hit the floor.
Exactly. So just to close, we really hope that this has been informative for you. We hope that you were able to relate to something. Maybe you even got some nuggets of gold out of our episode tonight. Random things. I'll go first this time.
All right.
So, random fact, I have 3 tattoos.
Oh, girl, I didn't know that.
I see every episode. This is going to be our thing. Yeah, they're all related to my children. So, and I do want more. My mother would probably cringe at the fact that I just shared that, but there it is. What's your random fact?
I love it. Okay, so yeah, we are going to definitely be diving deeper into that in later episodes. Stay tuned. If you weren't going to come back for the other topics, you might come back for that one. All right, so mine is a little bit tamer. It's not that much. So my big thing is I love sports. Any sport. I mean, I played sports. I have 3 brothers, so I mean, played every sport there is, basically played the sports all through high school, all through college. Post college, I was on teams like nothing, famous worthy, but just has always been a part of my life, and just being a part of teams and that environment. I love it. So
nice.
More about me.
Those are our random facts for tonight. We thank you so much for hanging out with us and just learning more about the mind, body, skin connection. We are 2 healthy chicks. I'm Aiyana.
And I'm Jennie. See you next time.
Great evening.
Bye.